So on this journey of carnivore, I can see what's happening around me. I can see the sickness around me, and it makes more sense. We've studied medicine, but it's only taught us to give medicines and not cure anyone. So that's kind of sad. I've had that reality check also in the past 2 years. We've collected about 1,500 patients right now. This is going to go on till December 2025, so we'll have quite a few thousands of patients. But in those 1,500 patients, 63% are pure vegetarians.
All right, everyone. Welcome back for another YouTube video. And today I've got an interview, a special guest all the way from India. His name is Dr. Ankur Verma. It's good evening here for me, but for you, also good evening from India. So,
Yeah.
hello.
Yeah, hi Geoff, how you doing, man?
I'm not too
We
bad, thank
finally,
you.
yeah, we finally made it after a bit of to and fro with the time zones and the technology, man.
For people who are going to be watching this, we've been trying to um, deal with some issues with time zones, and also more recently just some technological issues which we've got resolved. So it's meant to be. We're here to talk to each other, man. And yeah, I guess the one thing that really intrigued me when I started seeing your social media, obviously, you're following the carnivore diet, you're promoting the carnivore diet. But also, correct me if I'm wrong, but in a country like India, the majority of the population will be plant-based. Am I correct in that assumption? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, if people say otherwise, they're just mistaken, or
Mm,
they're living in Wonderland and just don't want to admit it. I mean, you've seen
mm,
some papers where people say, I mean, if you just Google, they're like, 4 out of 10 Indians eat vegetarian, and about 6 or 7 eat non-vegetarian. That's bullshit. No offense. I mean, don't mind my language. I'm so sorry about that.
that's all right.
But yeah, most of the people are vegetarians, and even if they eat any meats, most of them eat once a week or once a month. I mean, that's as good as being a vegetarian. You know?
All right. Yeah. Over here in Australia, I've got a lot of Indian friends and colleagues. So yeah, that pretty much can,
Okay.
I can imagine it's similar in the homeland as well. That very very much plant based. So yeah, I just so that's what intrigued me, Doc. I was just so curious because, well, being in a country that's predominantly plant based, how did that all occur? How did you become a carnivore, and what led you to this point?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, a lot of people ask me this as to how did I become carnivore, especially in a country where so many people are or vegetarians and plant based. I always had meat eating instincts since I was a kid. Uh, so I mean, I would go around clucking like a chicken if I wanted to have chicken when I was 2 years old, and family parties would have a separate dish of chicken or mutton for me, especially
Mm,
and the rest of the family would have another dish. So I always enjoyed my meats. I had that basic instinct in me. But then, obviously, growing up, westernization happened. A lot of junk food also came in, and yeah. So I mean, my meats also got converted to pizzas and burgers and all the junk and processed meats also. But yeah, all my meats were always accompanied with carbohydrates. A lot of them, and I used to enjoy my vegetables. I mean, there are a lot of Indian vegetables that taste really nice. Now
mm.
I know why they tasted so nice. No offense, but yeah, I mean they have a lot of anti-nutrients. But yes, I mean I got a reality check in 2021 where I
Mm.
got my triglycerides back as 600, and my HDLs
Wow.
were on the lower side. So my TG to HDL ratio was like 16. It's supposed to be less than 2. And I was like, something is definitely wrong. I mean, I used to work out. I've been working out since 2006. And I was like, I mean, I always thought I was fit and I ate everything possible because my trainers used to tell me, eat whatever you want, eat how many
Mm.
calories as you want because, you work out so much. Obviously, clearly they were wrong, or they didn't train me in the right direction. But then I started doing my research. So I went at the start. Obviously, I cut off all sugars and carbohydrates that I was eating, except maybe a little bit of rice that I was doing probably every day, and a little bit of oats for breakfast. I didn't know about oxalates at that time, but
Mm.
yeah. So I mean, and I cut down my calorie intake. I did lose weight, but I was also definitely inflamed at that time. I mean, even though I lost like about 20 kilos, 18 to 20 kilos. If you see my photographs from that time, also like a year back or 1.5 years, 2 years back, when I already lost weight, I was still inflamed. And then obviously, Paul Saladino's reel happened to me last year. Somebody sent it across, and it intrigued me into kind of. I'd already started doing research into nutrition, like in metabolic health and
Mm,
what that's all about, and about the gut and the microbiota and all that, the gut lining. Robert Lustig's book,
mm,
Metabolic, was actually an eye opener for me. A cousin had sent that across, and he was like, as a doctor, you would probably understand what he's written better and explain it to me too. So yeah, that's how my journey into metabolic fitness then started. Like, it's not just about losing my weight. I need to know what's happening inside my body, or I need to at least keep everything that's happening in my body in check. And then Paul Saladino's reel happened last year in April, and I was like, this is not bad. This makes a lot of sense. And I've always been a meat eater, and I've
mm,
always
mm,
enjoyed my meats. So it's really easy for me to switch off and remove everything else in my diet. And then I realized I was having some symptoms because of oxalates earlier, which disappeared. I went full blown carnivore. Now it's been 1 year, more than a year. I've definitely got much fitter, and
wow.
and started to observe a lot of my patients, a lot of my family, friends, everybody around me. I mean, I think that happens once you get onto a journey. You see what's happening around you, right? I mean, if you're traveling on a train or a car and you're taking a journey, you see what's around you. So on this journey of carnivore, I can see what's happening around me. I can see the sickness around me, and it makes more sense.
Mm,
How most of my patients that are coming in actually have so much of non-communicable diseases, the NCDs that we talk about,
mm,
metabolic syndrome, prediabetes, diabetes, cancer, uh,
mm,
asthma, hypothyroidism, dementias, PCOD, everything, fatty liver. This is
mm,
so much, and all of that is happening. And as doctors, we've not helped them much. I mean, we've studied medicine as a field, but it's
mm,
only taught us. But it's only taught us to give medicines and not cure anyone. So that's kind of sad. I've had that reality check also in the past 2 years. As to, I mean, the only thing I can say is that because I'm an emergency medicine specialist, I can save your life at that moment in time. But what happens to you after that? How many years do you survive? I have no say in that unless until you come back to me now. I can tell you what to do because you'll definitely be put on to your medications by your primary
mm,
physicians, and that's
mm.
not going to help you. It's not going to help you. So yeah, I mean, so that's been my journey through
Wow.
carnivore. Yeah, I've turned quite a bit of my family members into carnivores, which I think is a bit of a success. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm trying to promote and advocate as much as possible through my social media and through my podcast. So yeah,
Well
that's me.
done. Wow, wow. I really commend you because, from I'm a nurse by background, so I can relate in some ways. But the way you just explained, the reality check, that hit me hard too. Because you're right. I mean, just from my experience, I was always taught that it was all about medications. A lot of my training was fixated on medication administration as a nurse, and it's a huge part of of healthcare. But um yeah, it's somewhat bittersweet to hear that also from a doctor that you know because for a while I kind of felt like, am I the only one who really felt like this? Like I felt like, oh wow, this was, I could see all these chronic diseases that we see everywhere. You can understand. I can understand why it's happening.
Yeah,
And yeah, it sucked. It really did suck when I got that reality check. I think this is a great outlet and social media to promote uh this way of eating that actually, if you look back into the research that's happened over the last 100 years, I don't know how far you've gotten into it. But there's actually a lot of studies that can point to um you know, well, basically that destroys the lipid hypothesis.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Mm. Going into what you were saying about your family being carnivore, um, how were the first reactions initially when they found out that you were doing this meat only diet?
I mean, so my wife and my son were absolutely okay. My wife's tired of doing more of animal based. She would still have
Mm.
carbs. She would still have almonds and peanuts, those high oxalate foods till December this year, and then she cut off everything. She was still having her almonds and peanuts. So I mean, they've always been supportive because at home she was the one who's getting all the food cooked for me,
Mm.
and everybody was eating the same thing except that they would probably have it with some rotis
Mm.
and some rice and all, which I had stopped. And then she had hypothyroidism in, I think, February or March of this year. So I
Mm.
cut off all her oxalates, whatever little almonds and peanuts she was having. It wasn't little actually; she was having it every day, morning and evening. And in 1 month, she was absolutely fine. All the thyroid levels were okay.
Mm.
And I'm not just talking about TSH. I mean, I did get the whole thyroid profile done. A lot of people just get
Yeah.
TSH done and they don't know what's happening behind the scenes, right?
Mm.
So everything was absolutely fine. I mean, I had a few other family members. It took a little bit of time for my dad to understand. Not that he's fully carnivore right now, but he's understood what I'm talking about. But he's like 71, 72.
Mm. Yeah.
He's not going to go full blown carnivore. Obviously, I mean, he still likes sweets. He's absolutely fine. So he can have his sweets whenever he wants to. My younger brother's gone full carnivore in the past 3 months, and he's lost weight and he's feeling better. He's getting more energetic, so that's good. A few of my extended relatives, uh, one of my uncles reversed his diabetes after 25 years. He was on three medications and antihypertensives for 25 years, and in January he was diagnosed with renal carcinoma, and his nephrologist wanted to put him on insulin and start him on dialysis. I was like, no ways. You've got two options: either you go for that and your life is absolutely gone, or you try carnivore, see how it goes. So they went carnivore, my uncle and aunt, and diabetes got reversed. His hypertension got reversed. His immunotherapy for his cancer, he was doing really well. In the sense, he was completely carnivore, and then he would fast for 36 hours when he would have his immunotherapy. And in just a second PET scan, his lung mets had disappeared, and his mediastinal mets had reduced in numbers and size. His
Wow.
his CRP had fallen from 150 to about 30. Uh, yeah, and then we got the kidney removed because it started to hurt. So
Mm.
we
Yeah.
had to get that removed because it's really diseased. But that removed after that removed, his CRP fell down to 5, uh, which was understandable. But yeah,
Mm.
his HbA1c I think came down from 8.4 to 5.2. His insulin levels are like just 2.
Wow.
He's basically, I made his doctor write down in his electronic health records that he's a recovered diabetic and hypertensive, and that he does not require any more medications. I made him write that.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And then there
That's
are a few of my
incredible.
friends. Yeah, a few of my friends, they became diabetic, and then they came to me again. I gave them two options: you go to your regular doctor and get on medications, and the whole vicious cycle. You try carnivore, and they're doing much better. They've reversed diabetes, they've reversed hypothyroidism, they've reversed non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and pre-diabetes without medications. And now the thing is, the good part is that they've understood the positive effects, and that in turn motivates them more, and they're getting into the carnivore lifestyle. I tell my people that this is not just a fat diet that you're going to do for a short term and then rebound. It's not that easy to rebound from this because you have
Mm.
so many different positive effects, be it mental health, physical health, metabolic health, that you want
Absolutely.
to convert this into a lifestyle. It's basically a carnivore lifestyle. It's not just a carnivore diet.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and it's fun now because when we go out for dinners to my friends' places, they do a WhatsApp vote as to who's eating what, and they have carnivore dinner as one of the options: carnivore,
Yeah.
uh, and vegetarian and omnivore. So we get more votes for carnivore now in that.
It looks like you guys are more ahead than a lot of us. I mean, even with my group of friends, like I'll just say, no, don't worry about the carnivore guy here. I'll just eat. I'll eat
Yeah,
beforehand. I'll eat
yeah,
before.
yeah.
That's
It's
awesome.
good fun. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That is amazing that you have you've been that influence for other people to try the diet and actually see the results. I mean, well done to your uncle, honestly. That's
Yeah.
with what he's gone through, that's amazing. I mean, you obviously see the results in yourself. You know that it works, but when you see it in other people, it just brings, for me, it brings a lot of joy, especially if it's the people around you.
Yeah.
Um, uh, but in terms of your practice as a medical professional, how has this path changed you? Has your practice changed at all, or has your way of thinking changed?
100%. I mean, I see the metabolic syndrome patients coming in every day. We're actually doing a
Hmm.
research right now where we're choosing
Oh,
where we're asking food preferences from all the
mm,
patients coming into a department who have non-communicable diseases, not just
right.
metabolic syndrome. So I mean, everything like from cancer, which is actually a metabolic syndrome, but
Mm-mm.
but asthma and dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, PCOS, hypothyroidism, fatty liver, diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, anything. And not just and food preferences as in vegetarian, non-vegetarian, omnivore, carnivore, vegan, whatever, ovo vegetarian, pescatarian, anything. And then there are about 32 questions. It's not about how frequently do you eat a certain food item, unless and until you tell us. If you're an omnivore, we ask you how regularly do you eat meats. Is it daily? Is it
Mm-mm.
once a week, once a month? Kind of an average. uh, and same for pescatarians and the egg eaters. So, but anyways, we've collected about 1,500 patients right now. This is going to go on till December 2025, so we'll have quite a few thousands of patients. But in those 1,500 patients, 63% are pure vegetarians.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is that going to be published?
Yeah, yeah, of course. I mean,
Oh,
once we get through with it, we'll have to find a journal who'll be willing to publish this kind of study and the data that I'm going to get.
awesome.
But yeah, I mean, I don't go around collecting any data because I might be biased, obviously, because
Yeah.
this was my baby. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's my residents who are running the research. They're the ones who are going around and getting the surveys filled in. But I just keep
Awesome.
checking I get the back end data. So 63% are vegetarians and about 33% are omnivores, and out of that 42% eat once a week and another 60% eat once a month. So
Of
yeah,
of, of meat?
and of meat, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, of
wow.
meat, yeah, yeah, that's it. And uh, and most of the vegetarians usually, I mean, they say that they don't eat junk food. There's going to be a little bit of bias there, obviously, because if they tell us that they eat junk food, we'll be like, oh, that's bad for you. So there'll be
Mm,
some user bias over the healthy the healthy user bias. uh, but yeah, I mean, not many people are doing alcohol or smoking, and that's what they tell us. But there's I mean, in these 1,500 patients, there is a strong association with vegetarians, and because
mm,
Indian
mm,
vegetarianism is carbohydrate loaded. Absolutely, no
mm.
matter where you go in India, it's going to be full of carbs. And obviously, I mean, we can't prove causation. Nobody can prove causation for
Yes.
anything unless until you
Mm.
go around doing a really big, nice randomized study or an interventional study where you close two people in, or 200 people, 100 each, and you vegan or plant based and carnivore. But there's going to be a strong association. A lot of people have shown associations with processed meats and junk foods, which is true, which
Mm.
is absolutely okay. But they've wrongly inferred after that meats are the devil,
Yeah.
uh, which are the wrong conclusions. But over here, what are you going to say? I mean, the vegetarians are vegetarians. And if I get a
Mm.
strong association, then so be it. I mean, I'm not going to go around saying, okay, fine, the cabbage is the problem, or
Mm.
the wheat is the problem, or the rice is the problem. I'm just going to say that it's vegetarianism that is the problem. And I know that the Indian vegetarian scene is fully carbohydrate. I mean, you go to Bengali, somewhere in the east of India or south of India, and tell them not to have rice. They'll slap you. They're like, how can you not
Yeah.
eat rice?
Yeah.
They have to eat rice. Uh, and if you go north of India, they have these things called naans and rotis,
Yeah.
which are breads, right?
Mm.
They have to have that. So nobody, and it's carb addiction. You can't help it, and it's been documented in India for many many years. In the year 300 to 400 AD, one of the two leading, the first few surgeons and doctors in India, Sushruta and Charaka, they've documented diabetes in India in the year 300,
Wow.
400 AD. In the Rig Vedas, which were written like 4,000 years back, they've mentioned diabetes. In 1895, again, there were no processed foods. The Surgeon Generals in India at that time, when we were under the British control, have documented diabetes in the rice-eating populations of India, and that
Mm.
there's a big carbohydrate drive that's being done in India. If you remove carbs from their diet and replace it with high protein diets, people will get better. This was all before medications came out and screwed everything up. But yeah, we've always been a carb loving nation, and we've always been eating a lot of carbs, and we've had diabetes even before junk food came into our country.
Wow. So that's even
Yes.
before industrialization. That's crazy.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Wow.
People
Mm.
don't the people don't choose to accept it. That's the problem.
Absolutely.
Even I
Yeah.
didn't know about it. I mean, I did my research and I found it. I was like, wow, this is pretty heavy.
Mm. I'm curious now. I really want to look at that. Actually, that's very interesting. That hundreds of even thousands of years that they've actually discovered that people had diabetes. Yeah. I actually that's new to me. That's news.
Yeah, I mean,
Pretty much news to me.
uh, yeah, India started the use of sugarcane and converting into sugar, refined sugar, 3,500 years back, and
Mm.
the rest of the world started doing it about 1,000 years later. But we always had rice. Yeah. But
Mm.
if you go really back, we were always
Yes.
a meat-eating population also. Um,
Yes.
from the Indus Valley civilization. So, I mean, even the Brahmins and the top class, the top layers of our society, who don't eat meats now, actually used to eat meats a long time back. I don't know where
Right.
it all got screwed up and changed up.
Oh yeah. Wonder when. Yeah. That's a good question. Um. Yeah, that's very interesting actually to know that because when I went on this journey going carnivore, this whole concept of actually it makes sense that ancestrally we've been eating a highly meat diet, if not a carnivore one. But are you familiar with the stable isotope data and the analysis of long bones?
No, I haven't. I haven't seen that yet. But I've heard
Okay.
about it, but I haven't delved deeper into that.
Yeah, yeah. I found that quite interesting actually, that they could actually extract the collagen from the long bones and identify, the nitrogen levels to confirm that, actually human beings before, the advent of agriculture were very much highly carnivorous. Um and yeah, but you don't even have to look that far. Like like you said, ancient Indians did also eat quite a bit of meat, so it's very
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, it is.
Mm,
It is. Yeah.
mm. Now, I wanted to talk to you about cholesterol. That's obviously going to be a hot topic, when it comes to the carnivore lifestyle. That's the big debate. And that's how people want to, portray that, you're going to have high cholesterol if you're on a carnivore diet, therefore you're at risk of having heart disease. What are your thoughts around that as a carnivore doctor?
Yeah, I mean, go for the cholesterol, man. It's not going to harm you at all.
Mm,
That's a big myth. I mean, yeah, I've harmed a lot of my patients by giving them statins
mm,
to bring their cholesterol levels up. But the data is out there. It's absolutely clear. The higher the LDL levels, see total cholesterol. It was all a propaganda, right? People started off with total cholesterol that's bad for you. Then they
mm,
came down to LDL. They said total cholesterol is basically what, just LDL plus HDL plus your VLDLs, right? So it's just a number that's calculated from the other three subgroups.
mm,
Then
mm,
you need to, so they're like, total cholesterol doesn't matter. It's the LDL and the VLDLs.
mm-hmm,
Then they said that LDL is not that important. You break down the LDL into your ApoB and ApoA and all of that, and
mm,
lipoprotein A. It's just to propagate the first lie that was actually said, that
mm,
just to keep cholesterol relevant. It's a nutrient. A nutrient's supposed to help you. It's supposed to build you. It builds everything in your body, your cell membrane, your brain, your nerve sheets, your thyroid, your testosterone, it's your hormones, all your steroid hormones, your steroid hormones, everything. It's something. It heals you. It's sent to different places. It's basically like an antioxidant. Also, it reduces your oxidative stress. How the hell can it harm you? It does not. And studies have shown higher the LDL, lower the chances of cardiovascular diseases,
Mm.
lower the chances of mortality, and vice versa. So, people with low cholesterols and low LDL levels actually have higher chances of mortality and cardiovascular diseases also. I mean, there are studies which have been done in India where people with heart attacks, their lipid profiles have been checked, and either the cholesterols were most of the patients had low to normal
Well,
cholesterol levels.
yeah.
And that kind of a study has been done, I think, across the world, and is
Mm.
the same everywhere. I was listening to a podcast yesterday. It was really really interesting. Where if I don't know if I'm going to get this correct, but uh, a few autopsies. I mean, there might have been just about 30 or 40 studies regarding the autopsies done on heart attack deaths, and
Mm.
80% of them did not have blockages.
Right. Okay.
80% did not have blockages, and the 20% that had blockages, that was not the cause of death.
Okay.
That didn't lead to a heart attack. So yeah, I mean, go for your cholesterol. I mean, it's not an issue at all. It's just a myth. You don't need to check it very regularly, although some of us do. uh, I do, because my triglyceride to HDL ratio, that's the one that's important, right? Your
Yeah.
TG to HDL ratio,
Yeah.
that's the one that's important. You want your HDL as high as possible, you want your triglycerides as low as possible,
Yeah.
and you should be sorted as long as your fasting insulin is okay, your homocysteine levels are okay, your micronutrient levels are okay, your cortisol levels are fine. You will be fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just a myth. So I mean, we all know about Ansel Keys and AHA. I mean, AHA was also. I mean, you can Google it. It's just not me. I mean, it's everywhere online. Uh, I mean, it's everywhere that Crisco paid off, uh, put in $4 million or something like that, to
Mm.
start off AHA, and then the whole thing about refined oils and PUFAs came in, that they were heart healthy and all of that. And in 2019, the American Heart Association has gone out and actually said that cholesterol is now a dietary nutrient of concern.
Yeah.
And now in their new Prevent calculator, where you can actually calculate your risk of cardiovascular disease or heart failure, uh, there is no LDL. You have just total cholesterol. Again, it
Total
doesn't
collection.
matter.
Yeah.
I
Mm.
put up my high, so mine is higher than the highest limit of theirs. I put that in. They have HbA1c, they have EGFR, they have HDL
Mm.
levels, and I put that in. My 10-year chances of heart disease was just 1.2%.
Mm.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what's the science behind it, but then I'm happy that they removed LDL.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least they've cleared that up. But I mean, I still think we're a long way to go, and I'm not being negative about
Yeah.
it. I just think that we're still got a long way to go when it
Yeah,
comes
yeah,
to
yeah. You
yeah.
want your cholesterols, yeah, you want your cholesterols to be higher. I mean, it's something that's good for you. You want that as much as
Mm.
possible, right? And even so
Mm.
I was talking to this about this with, I think, Linda. I started reading my biochemistry books again, and it intrigued me that the first chapters are on proteins, the second chapters are on fats, and then it's
Mm.
the carbohydrates. And then people say that carbohydrates are the most important, when it's not, clearly. I mean, they started off teaching us more about the proteins first, and then the fats, and then the carbs. I think there is something into it. It might have been unconsciously or consciously done, but if they're teaching you something first, I think that holds the most importance, right? Three-fourths of
Yes.
our body's dry weight is made of proteins. All our enzymes, enzymatic processes are made of proteins. Our bones, our joints, our muscles, our whole structure requires proteins. We've spoken about fat right now. So many things are made of fat, and it's required in our body. We don't have anything that's made in our body by glucose or
No.
carbohydrates. Nothing,
Mm.
nothing at all. Your glucose enters your bloodstream, and your insulin is secreted to remove it as soon as possible, either in the form of energy or in the form of fats.
Mm.
So this
Mm.
was a really nice logic, which I heard of from Tim Noakes on Anthony Chaffee's podcast, which made a lot of
Mm.
sense, because insulin, we knew that has a very short half life, but we didn't understand. As doctors, we don't question too much. Okay, why does it have such a short life? Because it wants to be removed. It needs to remove glucose from your bloodstream as soon as possible. So you
Yes.
don't want you don't want it roaming around again. So what happens in insulin resistance? You have so much of insulin roaming around in your body, even though it
Mm.
has a short half life, right? So I mean, the body's made those defense mechanisms itself, that it's given a short half life to insulin, so that even your insulin is not roaming around in your body all the time. And then you look at
Mm.
Ben Bickman's lab and his research, where he plays around with fat cells and insulin, and he's like, if you don't put in insulin to a cell, it's not going to grow. You put in insulin into a cell, it's going to become fat. Nothing's going to grow
Mm.
fat without insulin. But if you have insulin roaming around, you're going to get fat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So
it's
really,
it's yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
Sorry.
it's an intrinsic mechanism that we have,
Mm.
that our body doesn't want insulin to be roaming around for too long. It doesn't want sugars to be roaming around for too long, but we think otherwise.
At the root of it all, by the way you've just explained all that, carbohydrates are really the source of it all. That's the intake. I
Yeah,
mean, you're not going to have hyperinsulinemia without carbohydrate intake.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so that really solves a lot of things, doesn't it?
Yeah, and just the concept of insulin. I mean, as doctors, I think before the last 2 years, I didn't even know you could test insulin, because we've never been taught. I didn't
Yeah.
know you could do insulin tests. I
Yeah.
didn't even know. It was so weird. I'm like, what? Wait, I've never been taught this. Not in my graduation, not in my post graduation. That we could. It was only HbA1c, and that's it. But
Yeah.
now it makes sense. You want to see how much insulin is roaming around your body, either in the fasting state or even after your fed state. Just in case you want
Mm.
to see, how much of insulin is secreted when you eat a meal, whatever.
Mm.
But that's how ignorant medicine has made most of the doctors.
Yeah.
And if I ask any of the dermatologists, even in India, most of them would not know that you should get your fasting insulins done. Most of the profiles that I see, there are a lot of labs in India, a lot of pathology labs who do a lot of tests, and they have these
Mm.
packages coming out. None of the packages have your fasting insulin.
It's
They all
crazy.
have, yeah, they all have sugars, they all have HbA1c, they all have lipid profiles.
Yeah.
They've started to do extended lipid profiles with ApoB and ApoA and all of that. Why? Because people have started saying, oh, this is what matters, after cholesterol coming down to that. uh, but they've started doing that. Not many people test cortisol levels. They all do vitamin B12 and D3.
Mm.
They
Mm.
don't check homocysteines. So yeah, I mean, it's weird how, like I said in the start, I think I told you that, I mean, I've done medicine, but I've been taught just to give medicine.
Oh man.
But I'm trying to change that. I'm trying to change that when I meet my patients. I try to counsel as many as possible regarding what they're eating and what they should eat. And they're like,
Yeah.
doc, you're the first one who's saying that. Like, I'll probably be the only one to tell you this as a doctor. There won't be any other doctor who's going to tell you this, not in your lifetime for sure. But then, if you really want to get better and live a longer life, try and do what I'm telling you to do. And
Yeah.
then I
Yeah.
pass on my podcast to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's easier. I
Yeah.
mean, they can learn more through that. Yeah, because I don't get to spend so much of time with them, because I'm an emergency physician. They come, they get saved, and then they
Yeah.
move on.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. That's funny because yeah, like whenever it comes to the education part of things, it always starts with I never try to push it onto anyone as well. I never
yeah,
try to say, you have to eat meat, you have to eat meat. This is the way, yeah, blah blah blah. No, it always starts with, oh, let's say I got a diabetic patient that comes. Oh, your blood sugars have been high. Have you ever thought about cutting out carbs? It's like, oh no, no, we can't do that. Carbohydrates are essential. They are essential for for life. Um, how do we break that? How do we break that? Because it's crazy because I can clearly remember on my textbook in my first anatomy and physiology class, I can remember reading a chapter on gluconeogenesis.
yeah.
Yet it never stuck to me. It never clicked in my mind until 13 years later that, hey, hang on, actually we can actually survive without eating carbs.
So that's 13 years for you. That's 24 years for me.
24 years. But it's crazy. Like I can even remember that what the actual, it was a small little part. It wasn't a huge part of the textbook, but it clearly said that you can read in between the lines. Your body can create its own glucose through a process,
Yeah, yeah.
or through multiple processes in
Through
gluconeogenesis.
proteins, through
It's proteins,
proteins,
yeah. Yep.
glucogenic proteins, and those are the essential amino acids. And where do you get them?
Yeah,
From
exactly. Yeah.
meats.
Yeah. So how do we, so I guess, how do you do it as a doctor to tell people that, carbohydrates actually, if you look at it from
Yeah,
this angle, they're contraindicated. How do you do it? How do you tell people?
I show them the mirror first as to what they've been doing is obviously not healthy. That's why they're in my emergency department.
Mm,
And that's the first thing they realize. Yeah, I mean, probably we're not doing something that's right. And then I give
mm,
them the option: do you want to be on medications that keep coming back here with the same disease, which is not going to get cured through those medications, or you
mm,
might come back because of complications of those medications, the side effects of those medications. And
mm,
if not, this is your other alternative. I mean, you have so much of carbs. This is what carbs do to you. This is what our body does. It maintains 4 grams of sugar at any given fasting state.
mm.
It doesn't want more. So I do like a quick 10-minute lecture. I
Yeah.
write down stuff on paper, so they understand. Maybe some of them understand that I know what I'm talking about. And then, like I said, my team is there, so they hand off my Instagram handles and my
Mm,
podcast links to them, so that they can follow and they'll be able to learn more. Because I don't get too much of time to discuss with them, but yeah, a quick
mm.
10-15 minutes with
Okay.
them and with the family. I don't know how many of them understand or follow, but at least it starts off a conversation. At least
Yes.
it opens their minds to something, and probably they can think about it later. They might have conversations with others. Okay, fine, we met a doctor who was saying this. Let's listen to his podcast, or let's see what he's doing on Instagram or whatever,
Mm,
and see what's happening. And then they might come online and they get to see all the guests that we talk to, and what's happening. Might
mm.
change, might not change. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. You can only do what you can do. That's it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
There are
Um,
there are a few who do understand for sure, and they're like, we are going to make changes. But then there are a few, we're pure vegetarians. We can't help it. I'm like, too bad. Then I can't help you.
Actually, let's talk about on the flip side, on the plant-based side, vegetarianism. This was a discussion that I guess I've had recently. Supplementation. Why can't you just supplement, like say for example B12? Like I hear a lot of vegetarians say, well, I'm not B12 deficient because I can supplement with medications. What are your thoughts around that?
Why do that? That's not natural, anyways. And
Mm,
secondly, I mean, B12 is basically cobalamin, right? And the
mm,
B12 supplement that comes at cyanocobalamin, which is again a formula made out of cyanide. Do you
yeah.
want to have that?
Mm,
Doesn't make sense to me. I mean, why eat something which is not natural? And you're not going to get proteins from your plant-based, no ways. That's not going to happen. You have lectins and phytic acids. That's going to
mm,
reduce the bioavailability and biodigestibility. You don't have all the essential amino acids in them. Again, like the biodigestible and bioavailability is really, really low. You get a lot of anti-nutrients along with that, free of cost. And on top of that, you also get a lot of carbohydrates, three times the amount of the proteins that you have. That's again free for you. So I mean, if you really want to do that, to each his own. I mean, you can do that,
mm,
and
mm,
if you're thriving on it, I mean, so be it. But I
mm.
know a lot of people who are not thriving on it. 63% of my patients who are coming in with non-communicable diseases are vegetarians.
Mm, that says something. But anyways, yeah, to each their own.
Yeah, so this is really interesting case I had. Remember, once I had a 32 or a 33-year-old doctor from some other hospital come in with an acute stroke, an acute
Mm,
ischemic stroke. He came out of window period, and my neurologist was quite shocked as to what happened to him at the age of 32. I'm like, do you know what he eats? He's like, no. I'm like, go ask him. He'll be a pure vegetarian. He asked him, and he's like, yeah, he is a pure vegetarian. So what is that? I mean, run these tests for him. he'll be vitamin B12 deficient, most like
Mm,
and his homocysteines would be really high, and hyperhomocysteine can lead to clots anywhere in the body, and
mm.
that's what came out. His B12 levels were 60, 60, 60.
What? So
That's it.
I'm familiar.
So,
What's the ranges?
our normal range is basically 200 to 900. Now, again, less anything less than 400 is actually not good for you, because it's basically the reference range is like an average of the population, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So you doesn't mean that if you have like 201, you're in the range. That's not good for you. Start getting neurological deficits, logical
yeah.
issues. But his vitamin B12 level was 60. His homocysteines was in his 50s. And then the neurologist came back and told me, now I understand what you're talking about. And the neurologist is a vegetarian.
Oh gosh, another convert, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, let's see.
Maybe we'll see. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but it's sad. I mean, because people are not understanding. They think that that they're being morally right, or they're having healthy food through vegetarianism. You're not getting your nutrients, no matter what you say. I'm not going to
Mm,
believe that. It's not going to happen.
mm,
I've been reading a lot of literature just on the nutrient values uh, from textbooks, like a lot of textbooks which are out there. It's very clearly written everywhere that you cannot get all your essential amino acids from plant-based proteins. You have to fortify them. Now, again, so for fortification, you need processing, right? So all those
yes.
companies, they chip in and they're like, fortified with this. You don't get a combination of arginine, methionine, and tryptophan from your plant-based proteins. They're all fortified. All the pulses, all the lentils, and the
Mm,
rice and all are all fortified by these companies. And then again, they're all chemicals. And then again, your bioavailability and biodigestibility varies. So yeah, you have so many frail adults coming in. We will be starting doing a research very soon in the elderly population that come in with trivial traumas, who fracture themselves. They're all sarcopenic, and we're going
mm.
to ask them what they eat.
Yep, yep. And we can
Let's
already
see.
guess, I guess, what the what the what the outcome will be.
So my hypothesis is that that it will not be associated with vegetarianism. So yeah, you're going to prove me wrong.
Yep. That's oh man.
So yeah, no offense to all the vegetarians out there. If you're thriving, please go ahead, do that. But don't be under this misconception that you get all the nutrients that you require to live a long, healthy, disease-free, illness-free life.
Mm. Not to mention, you. It's another investment that you have to consider. I mean, I don't know what the expenses are that people are paying for, certain supplements, but I mean, B12 is just one of them. People say,
Yeah,
"Oh, B12, it's just B12." That's
yeah,
another supplement.
man.
It's
You're
more.
not gonna you will not get heme iron from anywhere in the plant sources, right? They have non-heme
Yeah,
iron. Your
yeah,
body needs to convert that into heme iron, and by the time it's absolutely exhausted. A lot of people think spinach is really good for iron. It's not. I think 100 gram of spinach has just like 10 milligrams of iron with
yeah.
2% bioavailability. So imagine the
Mm.
amount of spinach you want to get 11 grams of iron. You'll have to eat like almost 5 kilos or something like that. I might have the maths wrong. I've done it a long time back, but yeah, that's what it came out to be. To get a recommended daily allowance of iron of about 10 to 11 grams, you would need to eat 5 kilograms of spinach. There also, then you get non-heme iron. You
Yeah.
don't get heme iron, right? So a lot of vegetarians and vegans also turn out to be iron deficient, and
Yeah.
then they become anemic. And then once they become anemic, they have a lot of other disorders, right? If your hemoglobin falls down really low, you can go into
Mm.
heart failures. Yeah, so a lot of issues.
It's crazy. We're talking about the subject of iron. I was talking about this with a colleague the other day. This is how crazy the world is. We're told that it's widely acknowledged, and I'm sure it is in India as well, that iron deficiency and anemia is a problem. It's a global problem. I don't know the statistics on the top of my head. we're told to avoid the food that provides us with the bioavailable iron. So that's a kick in the gut. We're told to eat the foods that we can't absorb the iron from, and it also contains the anti-nutrients,
Oxalates, a lot of
oxalates.
oxalates. And if you become iron deficient, we have the medicines for you, right?
I was just about to get to that. Yeah, but you know what? We have the medicine for it. It's like, do people not see the problem there? Like where it's all coming from? Like this is just
Yeah.
quite basic.
It's kind of sad, the whole vicious cycle of the big pharma and the big food and the big industries and the big governments. And you know what? So I was listening to another podcast. It was really interesting where there was a psychiatrist who was talking about how she the delusions that her patients used to come in with, who was schizophrenic or bipolar, and
Yeah.
she's like, getting them onto the right nutrition actually made them psychic. Uh, and the most common delusions used to be that the food is poison and the government is out to
Mm.
get you. And she was like, those are not delusions. They were psychic.
Yeah.
They were actually saying the right thing. It was us who were the normal people who were probably ill, who could not see that, but they could. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow, that's fantastic. It made so much of sense. This was
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
This was on Tom Cohen's podcast. It was really nice, really nice. You
I'll
should
go
listen to
watch that.
that. Yeah,
Yeah. I will. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It's
nice.
crazy. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, I could honestly talk for hours and hours just to talk about stuff that goes
I
on.
don't know.
But I just wanted to say thank you for your time. I think we'll cap it at here. It's we're reaching the hour mark, and I think we've covered quite a lot.
Yeah,
But it's been a pleasure, and it's been an awesome conversation to have with you. Your story and also getting your insight on a lot of things. Actually, just want to commend you again for the work that you do, not just with your in your profession with your patients and your family, but also in social media. I really do commend that you're reaching out to an audience that's you know uh, predominantly plant-based, like you said. Like you're trying to preach the word out to a country that is predominantly plant-based, and I can't imagine how hard that might be. Actually, I can imagine it because I think Australia is, no matter what they say, I still think it's plant-based regardless.
oh no, I loved it when I came to Australia. I mean, the amount of meats I had was insane. The beef and the
Yeah,
pork and everything. Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. Yeah,
yeah.
but
I
yeah, I
still think
mean,
it's a plant-based country.
you know better. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, man, thank you so much for your time. Have you got
Thank you
any
so
final
much.
words? Anything you want to say to
Yeah, I
people? I
mean,
guess.
yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I mean, I've had an amazing time chatting up with you. I mean, having this conversation is really good fun. We spoke about a lot of things, and yeah, being for the people out there, if you want to get started on the carnivore journey, I mean, the first thing to do is to just cut off all the processed foods that you eat.
Mm,
See, I mean, and you'll understand what carb addiction is all about, right? You might get some cravings. If you do get cravings, eat like a fatty meat, or just have some butter or ghee, and you'll be fine. But yeah, cut off all the processed foods, and then go down to your carbs, and then to your veggies. Start having your
mm,
meats. A lot of vegetarians who I tell to start off with eggs and probably like chicken soup or
mm,
just chicken broth, which doesn't have the chicken pieces because they've never had it. So I'm like just get the flavor in, get it going, and see how it goes. But yeah, I
mm,
mean,
mm.
this is a lifestyle that you need to follow. It's not that difficult to do. Once you get motivated, the intent has to be there. I mean, once and then it just becomes a habit. Anything you do for more than 21 days becomes a habit. So try it out. A lot of carnivores say that do it for 30 days and never gonna go back. Do it for 30 days. Do it for 60 days. Take it month at a time, see how you do. And I mean, there'll be so many symptoms in your body that you have no idea you have
Mhm.
until they disappear on carnivore, and then
Yes.
you'll understand the magic of carnivore.
Yeah,
Go carnivore.
absolutely. That's what I tell people. You never know unless you try.
Yeah,
Mm,
absolutely.
mm,
But
mm.
yeah, thank you so much, Joff. Yeah.
Well, thank you again. And guys, if you like this video, this interview, please give it a big thumbs up. And also, where can people find you? Where can they follow you on social media?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm there on Instagram at the carnivore.ep. And the EP stands for emergency physician. So if somebody forgets what came after the carnivore, it's EP. And I have my own podcast called the Desi EM Project, DESI Project. That's on
Right.
Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. So you can check out some conversations over there.
All right. So I'll
That's
get people to follow you. I'll put it in the video description. Otherwise, guys, just yeah, I'll see you in the next video. And yeah, thank you again.
cheers, man.
See you. See you.